Hi, this is Jeff Kober, and we welcome you to Disney Insights. So glad you could join us. So many things at Walt Disney World create magic for millions of guests, and yet there are those less than magical moments. I listened to a vlogcaster go on for about an hour about everything wrong at Universal and Disney. Indeed, that individual, I'm not going to name that person, seemed really negative in most of his videos. But I have to admit, there are a handful of things that could be improved upon, and I'm using those things not only to highlight, but to also remind us what is working right, or what could easily be done to make it right. So we're going to talk about something that affects, well, all of the parks, and then especially 3 of the 4 Walt Disney World parks: Magic Kingdom, Disney's Animal Kingdom, and Disney's Hollywood Studios. Join us for 5 frustrations at Walt Disney World and 5 things they're doing or could be doing right. This podcast is produced by myself and Performance Journeys, which offers training, development, and consultant support to organizations big and small and entrepreneurs new and established. With a wide variety of resources and long-time in-the-trench experience, we offer workshops, online learning, coaching, and more to organizations that want to build their teams, raise organizational excellence, improve leadership, and create customer loyalty. Check us out at performancejourneys.com. As with our podcast, be sure to check out this website, disneyinsights.com, where we offer key points, photos, videos, links, and more. In today's discussion, we'll be showcasing a number of items that we've outlined. And also know that our YouTube, which is Disney Insights, carries our podcast as well. So please subscribe to our Disney Insights YouTube page, as it will be more a part of our social media strategy moving forward. We appreciate any positive ratings, reviews, or referrals. Just your referring to others about us really helps to create more momentum for what we have to offer. Last week's podcast on Westcott was especially well received, and a lot of folks really tuned in to hear some of the things we talked about. We're going to have more around that as we cover Disney California Adventure this year. But today, we are definitely at home at Walt Disney World. Well, let me talk about the first thing, and it really doesn't have to do with Disney per se. It has to do with live streamers. You know, social media and Disney are, well, for that matter, our entire world at large, has evolved over the years. And I've had a chance to see that evolution. Before there was really social media, back at the time when I was at Walt Disney World, I would be part of press events. And you'd invite news stations, you would invite magazines or newspapers to come, but you never invited somebody who did a blog or a vlog or anything like that, or a YouTube page. When I left Disney, I had the opportunity of working almost 20 years ago, actually 2007, I started with Mouse Planet, and had the opportunity and invitation to join Disney at a number of press events. Now, at that time, I got to say, that was about the time Disney was starting to invite folks who were in social media to come and cover Disney. And they were tentative. They kind of had us kind of behind the more important folks, you know, who were covering news and magazines and radio and TV. But they did invite us and so forth. Over that time, it has since evolved, and now they really cater to a number of them. However, there are some that are creating some challenges in the parks, particularly those who do live streaming or vlogging within the parks. And I have to admit, I've tried doing a live stream. I was always very careful to do so in very remote corners of the park. For instance, I remember being on the bridge between Odyssey and the main thoroughfare from Future World to World Showcase. Barely anybody walks that area. So and by the way, in all my social media, I mean, I do have a YouTube page and so forth, and I'm always very careful about where I film, when I film, making sure I don't include people who ought not be included in that video. I make sure that there's nothing unsafe about what I'm doing, and I try to reduce the amount of technology I'm bringing to the table so it doesn't stand out and so forth. I have an appreciation for what it takes to do that. I do appreciate that. And but I have to also say that I really don't want to create a production. In fact, what I've observed from most streamers is that it is really annoying throughout the park. Wherever oftentimes they're in the middle of major walkways and thoroughfares, and it's particularly annoying. You could be sitting on a rocking chair, even maybe at the Town Square Theater in Magic Kingdom, and you're sitting there, but the next rocking chair over is this individual doing a vlogcast and talking to people, and all of this is going on, and they're doing this live streaming, and it really interrupts your experience of just sitting on the rocking chair and just enjoying the evening at the park. Then you see individuals who get very invasive in the queue, and all of a sudden, lots of you're kind of working around this person, and you're kind of in the shot and not in the shot, and it's very uncomfortable when they just come and join in the middle of um an attraction queue, and then it's worse. And frankly, experience destroying and sometimes even unsafe when they're on rides. I've seen vloggers who actually were having some kind. I've been on something like Navi River Journey, and having a vlogger with a light source on them as they were streaming through or going through. It just really is an uncomfortable experience. It destroys the magic. Walt Disney once said, Disneyland is the show. And what he meant by that is that everything else shouldn't get in the way of this incredible investment in creating a fantastic experience for guests to enjoy. And so generally, I don't I don't think anything else should be competing with the park. By the way, I should mention Tokyo. Um, Tokyo Disney has pretty well generally limited all live streaming and vlogging within their parks, and I think that's a direction that both Disneyland, Walt Disney World, or all the Disney parks worldwide need to go in. I think if you're creating that kind of attention to yourself, you shouldn't be doing that in the parks. By the way, in the future, I'd like to do some meetups in the park, and I also would like to do some form of live broadcasts, um, probably from my office. Let me know if that's something you'd enjoy as well. I'd like to work toward that much more in terms of interaction, but I think I will always try to be very careful not to go down this path of making a living based on how much attention I can create streaming in the middle of a park. And I hope that Disney kind of ends that live streaming experience that's going on there. So that's number one, was live streaming and vloggers. Number two takes us directly to the Magic Kingdom. Now, people complain about the food at Magic Kingdom. And let's face it, they have a lot of good reasons to do so. But there are some really good choices if you know where to look and if you get there before it closes. On an average night at Magic Kingdom, say closing at 10 like it is this evening when I'm recording, nothing savory seems to stay open until the park closes. With the exception of hot dogs at Casey's, nothing savory stays open until the park closes, unless you have a reservation to dine. Now, there are great choices there are some really great choices, some poor choices in my opinion, or not so great choices. But, I really love Jungle Navigation Company for its unique cuisine. I like Plaza Restaurant for good comfort food choices, burgers and shakes and onion rings. We recently even tried Tony's with our friends the Scallies for the first time in the last couple of years. Food wasn't the best Italian ever, but it wasn't like it was Olive Garden, and we all had just a really fun time on the patio terrace. So there are good choices when it comes to sit down dining, and you can do those choices in the last hours of the day and find something savory. But when it comes to counter service options, it seems to me that things get really messy. Now, Golden Oak Outpost for breakfast is one of those amazing choices. They have these honey butter chicken biscuit breakfast sandwiches, and they are terrific and filling. And then they also offer an option called banana caramel beignets. I'm telling you, these are to die. This is worth going to the park early for. Really, forget getting in line early for something. These are really great. It also has beignets the rest of the day. Maybe a little too much powdered sugar on them, but they're okay. Plus some hot honey chicken strips and sweet potato fries. So you do have a savory choice, but those, even Golden Oak for breakfast doesn't open until 9:30, and it closes at 8:30 p.m. And this same kind of thing around counter service choices continues on throughout the park. Gaston's, for instance, has a ham and gruyere sandwich. I never pronounce that cheese right, but it's delicious and it's a great choice. And they also have this amazing creme brulee croissant. Oh, it's delicious. But it closes at 7 p.m. If the park is open till 10 and it's closing at 7, that's really disappointing. Chester Cafe, has its pepper jack pretzel, and that's okay. At least it's savory. They also have their Chester cattails, a lot of fun, but they close at 7. Friar's Nook offers a mac and cheese hand pie, but it closes at 5 p.m. Astrofizz does stay open till 10 p.m. and has some really good cherry cola churros. Wouldn't call that savory, but they're delicious. Anti-Gravity's has great choices as well. Love their milkshakes, love their ice cream, but there's nothing really savory. Still, they are both open till 10 a.m. Energy Bites, that was Bites with a Y, at Tron Light Cycle Run, had amazing choices like digital dumplings and sweet strawberry isoform. That's with a large O. Any rate, but it reduced its offering over time and has since gone off the grid. Now it's not even open, nor is it listed on the map. Cosmic Rays, when you get to the more formal counter service choices, Cosmic Rays closes at 10, but let me tell you, I just strain to have to go eat anything at Cosmic Rays. Pinocchio's a little better, but it closes at 9. Pecos Bill's closes at 8:30. It had an interesting Coca-Cola cherry braised pork tamale. Since when did anybody do tamales? That was so cool. Now it's only a sandwich. And they had a very cool sweet corn mousse, and it was actually in the shape of an ear of a corn. Really tasty. But they have the portion, and then they raise the price. And again, they're closing at 8:30. Harbor House closes at 8. And let me tell you, I'm just stretching. I can only do lobster rolls so many times, and that's a pretty expensive option there. The other things are just fried, and, well, they have the salmon, but it just doesn't do it for me. And at any rate, I'm telling you that none of the major counter service restaurants really have anything interesting to offer, and they are the source of why so many people say, not interesting, not good. Only the Main Street Bakery, Starbucks, is open after the park closes. Well, that's not fair. I just did mention earlier that Casey's on the corner is open, but again, fried or hot dog. And there's also the shop on the corner with all of those wonderful cookies and crispy treats and so forth. And the popcorn, I have to say that the popcorn on Main Street with that you could make choices at M&Ms or um, chocolate icing over it or any sort of options on it. That has been really a popular dish, and I guess popcorn is kind of savory, so I really do like it. There are really good choices at Magic Kingdom, but a lot of them do close early, and the main thoroughfares just don't really cut it. By the way, so I'm telling you, there are choices. Know that they are. Go over to Friar's Nook. Go over to Gaston's. Go over to Oak Outpost for breakfast. Know that those things are going to close early, but know that there are options out there. Now, before I leave the food issue, let me just mention, and I have to go over to the studios to talk about this. Let me just mention that the thing that made ABC Commissary so good, besides air conditioning, was that the fact that they had steak fries. Of all the other places, they had steak fries. So I was so disappointed when a week ago I arrived at ABC Commissary. I wasn't ordering anything with steak fries. I'm glad I didn't, because there I realized that now they're sticking McDonald-like fries in all their meals, just like the rest of the parks, and it is so disappointing. They need to put the steak fries back. And by the way, I know the guests are complaining about this at ABC Commissary. People want something better than McDonald's fries. So that's really kind of, they need to address this, but it can be fixed. By the way, if you want a good choice, go over to Animal Kingdom. They do offer steak fries at their Asian counter service restaurant. I'm forgetting the name right now. And they have a really great burger. Little on the expensive side, but well worth it. Surprisingly that they'd offer a burger and fries there in Asia. But let me tell you, that's the choice for steak fries if you want it. All right, I kind of segued over to the studios for a moment. So let me talk about some things that I absolutely love about 50's Primetime Cafe. 3 things. First, the setting is so crazy cool with its 1950s style kitchens and its Formica tables and vinyl aluminum chairs. Now, I'm not that old. I was not born in the 50s, but even in my own household, we had that look going into the 60s before we ended up redecorating into the 70s, so to speak. But there are tchotchkes on the walls that decorate the handcrafted wood cabinetry. It's just a fun setting. One of the best settings of any of the restaurants, and I think the restaurants at Disney's Animal Kingdom, or not, I'm sorry, at Disney's Hollywood Studios are some of the best restaurants. First of all, I have to say that I think the barbecue restaurant at Toy Story is the best of all of the all-you-care-to-eat kind of restaurants that are non-character. I think that's really strong. I love the Sci-Fi Diner, and the Brown Derby is my favorite of all restaurants on property as a whole. So there are just great choices here, and the setting here at 50's Primetime is fantastic. The second thing is that the food is a TV dinner at its best. Aunt Liz's golden fried chicken competes with Mom's old-fashioned Sunday pot roast and Cousin Megan's traditional meatloaf. There's cornbread, onion rings, mashed potatoes, gravy, and corn. Dessert offers warm apple pie a la mode and strawberry shortcake. And then there is the infamous peanut butter and jelly shakes. This is comfort food in heaven. This is what I expect to eat in heaven when I get there if I want comfort food. Then the third thing is you get to watch TV the whole time. And it's a crazy ensemble of black and white sitcoms from I Love Lucy to Dennis the Menace to all from the 1950s. All of it comes together. You watch on these old TVs and you have something to watch as well as just enjoy each other's company as you go through. What could go wrong about 50s Primetime Cafe? Well, I got a text a couple of weeks ago from a friend asking if she could talk to me sometime soon. She mentioned having lunch at 50's Primetime Cafe. And when she said that in her text, I immediately knew exactly what the problem was before we even got on the phone. I was at the airport at that time, but we managed to connect. I think she was heading to the airport right after she had finished lunch. She had brought her daughter and a friend of her daughter's to the restaurant. And it all ended up being like a bullying session where she was picked on for being on her mobile device. Now, mind you, she gets the ideas. You shouldn't have, that and all that. But she was having to make sure her travel arrangements were in place as she was heading to the airport afterwards. And I think she made that noted to the server. And she tried to be a good sport when she was being, about the playful behavior of the cast member when she was asked to stand to the wall and place a napkin between her nose and the wall. To say my friend was totally shocked by how she was treated is not enough. She left having a wonderful time at Walt Disney World, then being completely made upset that she could have such a terrible experience, and one that the cast member thought they were really good at delivering. My own experience with 50's Primetime Cafe goes back to 1996 when I was creating the Disney. By the way, I have spoken about this at length in a 2021 podcast called Primetime Cafe Catastrophe. And I haven't been back since. I should. I probably will now. Now that here we are in 2026, 5 years later, and still the same thing is happening. But it's been happening since the 90s. And back then, I was doing customer service programming for Disney, and we had this open enrollment program where we would have about 25, 35 participants in a program. And on the last day of the program, full day of the program, we went to the Tower of Terror in the morning, and it was hosted by a colleague of mine who had been there and still is there since opening and knew exactly how to help the cast create this amazing experience. Now, the Tower of Terror, the cast members play the role of a bellhop, and it's an incredibly creepy role, but they do it in a way that is subtle and unique and fascinating. At no time do they just do jump scares as if they're employed by Halloween Horror Nights. They know their role and they do this role perfectly, even though they are not actors. And this is what Disney calls performance theming, not acting, because if it was acting, then they'd have to pay people, union dues or union pay and so forth and so on. The same thing happens at 50's Primetime Cafe. And when we tested this concept, going to the Tower of Terror and then going to Primetime for breakfast, it was the first time anyone had done breakfast at Primetime. Then I was totally blown away by how terrible the cast members were. In this case, I was the one having my nose put to the wall with a dime I was supposed to hold. And I'm telling you, I'm having all of a sudden these moments of thinking about my own older brother and how I was treated I was having this moment of meltdown where it was just not comfortable. And and in 2021, I went there one night with my wife and I. We are seated in the corner next to a large and loud table of people. Now, those people are the ones who are going to love this kind of activity, having one of their buddies picked on and so forth. Um, and any rate, before we could say, hey, could we be seated in a little quieter place, our server came over and slammed through the silverware, heavy silverware and napkins, in a metal rack tray on our table. He stated that we had to set the table by ourselves. I mean, this is really, Big Brother craziness. I quickly retorted, hey, bro, mom said you had to set the table. Well, that got a response out of the other table of people. They were kind of surprised how quickly I responded. He asked if we had visited before. I said yes, but it had been a while. He took our order about 5 minutes after we were seated, which was very timely still. His attention was poured at the larger crowd because they just were feeding into him. Finally, we called out to him, quietly asked if we might be able to switch with another table, which we had asked, that was empty on the other side of the restaurant. He quickly fired back out of character and ranted about all the things he had to do as a server, from things like running credit cards to cleaning tables to handling special requests. I mean, all of a sudden it turned into this really awkward, dysfunctional moment as he was no longer playing an older sibling role, but rather the part of a disengaged employee. I broke up the awkwardness by saying, hey, I know you can do it, bro. He stated, I'll ask, but I can't promise you anything. Then nothing happened for the next 8-10 minutes till our dinner was set before us. 3 minutes later, he showed up to refill the water, volunteered that he had asked, but said it couldn't happen. And it was, by the way, toward closing of the day. The table across was still empty after all this time, but it was, at any rate, the food was still great. Well, it was good. It wasn't so great. Maybe it's just not great when you're not in that kind of experience. I wanted to have the PB&J shake, but I didn't want to deal with the server, and frankly, I don't think the server wanted to deal with us because he never gave me eye contact after that, and I really kind of played away from us, so to speak. At any rate, it was a disappointing experience for myself. I did a whole podcast. You can listen to that. But I got to tell you, something needs to change. Management needs to wake up to the fact that this is a kind of dysfunctional behavior, and it seldom works. Maybe with a frat group of guys, but otherwise not. They need to re-examine their training of their servers, how they monitor their performance, and possibly relook at hiring practices for this role, because it's not working right now, and it clearly ruined an experience for a good friend of mine who really was totally blown away by the kind of experience she received while there. Again, I want to restate the positive things. 50s Primetime Cafe is so cool. Great decor, really pretty great food, and you get to watch TV. But if the cast ruins it, what good is it? That was number 3. Let's go to number 4, and that is closing at Magic Kingdom. Now, before I talk about the challenge there, may I say the first great thing about Magic Kingdom at night is that they have added Disney Starlight Dream the Night Away. I love this parade. It could be longer. It could have more dancers. Recently, they added Peter Pan and Wendy flying in the air underneath the crescent moon that is stationed there for them. So very cool. I'd known that was possible because Japan had a daylight version. At night, it looks even more magical. And it just sets the whole thing up. And I love the fact that they do the first parade starting at Town Square and going into the rest of Magic Kingdom, allowing those who want to maybe check out and get out of the park before it gets crazy to be able to exit quickly before lines start. I love their organization, and by the way, they are organized at the entrance to Magic Kingdom at night. To see the queue stanchions and the signage and the number of cast members all involved in helping kind of move everybody in the right direction is very impressive. and is really wonderful. And of course, if you stay, you get to see Happily Ever After. That's amazingly cool. But of course, by then, the crowds have really picked up outside the entrance to the Magic Kingdom. Now, for me, we were there. The last time I was there um, uh, doing a review with some colleagues of mine of the Buzz Lightyear podcast. I think is 2 podcasts ago that we talked about the new version of Buzz Lightyear in Tomorrowland. And that, by the time we finished, that was after the fireworks. Now, in any kind of day like this, I'm happy to stay after the fireworks, see the fireworks, stay afterwards 30 minutes or whatever long I can do. I can go on some attractions that don't have long waits and then get in line for a monorail, which won't have a long wait. But in this instance, my colleagues needed to get home sooner. So we left. And again, not long after the fireworks. So you can imagine by the time we get there, despite their best efforts to organize everything at the entrance to the park, it was messy. It was just messy. We decided, because even the monorails to the resorts had a pretty long line at this point, we decided to say, okay, what would happen if we took the boats over to the Polynesian Resort and then walked over to the TTC from there? Not the best idea, but fortunately, there were boats that came pretty quickly after we got there, and we got on that boat. So that was cool. Enjoyed the boat ride. Still was a good walk as we kind of moved on to the TTC. And then, unfortunately for my 2 colleagues, they got stuck in traffic for several hours on I-4 because of a couple of accidents. Of course, that part wasn't Disney's fault, but still, there needs to be more options to get to the Ticket and Transportation Center. And you know what? The answer is simple, and it's an answer. And no, it's not a Skyliner from the parking lot. That would be nice, but there's lots of issues with security. Now that they've moved security to TTC, there's a lot of issues with all that. And plus cost. But there is a fairly simple answer, and that is they need to consistently utilize buses between the Magic Kingdom pickup spots and the TTC. It's been done before. 3 to 4 buses rotating in and out between there and TTC suffice. You designate one of the pickup spots, hopefully one a little closer to the Magic Kingdom, and then offer the option to guests. And it's not a perfect option. It might take still 10 or 15 minutes, but that's a whole lot better than the 45-minute option on the monorail, or worse, at the watercraft. And so I love Magic Kingdom. I want to be there more at night, but you need more options to get all of these guests dispersed. The Magic Kingdom has more guests visiting than any other park in the world. It has to have more options to be able to get everybody where they need to at the end. They do a lot of great things, but you know what I'm saying. You got to fix this thing with the TTC. While we're here closing at Magic Kingdom, my 5th thing is closing at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Disney's Animal Kingdom is simply beautiful at night. Pandora, with its bioluminescent look and so forth, is so awesome. The Tree of Life Nighttime Awakenings is powerful and probably one of the most clever use of projection mapping kind of things that I've seen in anything else. The Christmas lights during winter is beautiful, and they're offered in every part of the park. I don't know what it's going to look like under the new Pueblo Esperanza, the section, Tropical America section, but it has been really fun to see the Christmas lights. And Disney tried to really have later hours before COVID when they added the Rivers of Light show. The Rivers of Light show had beautiful elements. Ships, ships with projection mapping on the sails, which was also cool. Tiffany sculpted animals that floated around, fountains in the shape of lily pads that came to life. There was a lot to love about this, but unfortunately, it was a miss. Maybe the overarching plot line, but the cinematic viewing on the water screen, which consisted in the background of like two big fire hoses going in opposite directions, featured a lot of live action, and it was darker than it would have been if they had only utilized only animated sequences. So, in other words, they showed live action Jungle Book or live action Lion King instead of the animated Lion King. Or they had a little sequence, I think, of Lion King there, but most of it was live action. This show has to compete with the three other amazing shows in the parks for people to say, we got to stay. We got to be there tonight. We could maybe get on some of these attractions that don't have long waits and so forth. That's what needs to happen. They've got to have something emotionally amazing to keep people in the parks. For Disney, the biggest challenge was not the show. Even if the show was successful at the time, the problem they were facing is they couldn't make enough food and beverage per cap at night. So you understand, Epcot's big show at night is all due to the fact that they wanted to keep guests dining at all those different locations, added food and wine and flower and garden festivals. They want to keep food going through the evening. They make a great F&B per cap every night. That's more problematic at Disney's Animal Kingdom, as they really only have 4 restaurants. 2 of their biggest sit-down restaurants are Yak and Yeti and Rainforest Cafe at the entrance of the park. And both of those are actually not owned by Disney, they're owned by Landry. So having a show isn't really hitting Disney's pocketbook there. That only leaves Tiffin's and Tusker House as real sit-down restaurants that could benefit from nighttime traffic, and frankly, it's just not enough. Disney has a new chance with the Tropical America's Land, and its addition of not only Encanto and the Indiana Jones adventure that's coming, but also the new Esperanza character carousel, which I'm sure is going to be beautiful at night. This is going to be a land where people are going to want to stay late, and crowds will still be huge come sundown, so you're going to need to keep the park open until later. With these additions to this whole area here, Disney could create something like, I don't know, a carousel of color, kind of like World of Color at Disney California Adventure, and bring the Disney animals featured in the carousel into a show on the water, but done in a more animated form. An opportunity for Disney's F&B challenges is to take Restaurantosaurus, which is going to be redone under this new Tropical America setting, and to make it a sit-down restaurant in the evening while maintaining it as a counter service restaurant during the day. This is actually going to be similar to what they did with Be Our Guest. If you remember when the Be Our Guest restaurant opened, it was actually counter service even for breakfast and for lunch, and then at night they'd turn it into a sit-down type dining experience. So they could be doing something like that with Restaurantosaurus. They could also try creating some specialized dessert party, which they do at the Tomorrowland Terrace restaurant. In fact, they've dedicated, their dessert parties have been so successful at Magic Kingdom, they've dedicated the Tomorrowland Terrace to just that. They don't even bother opening the rest of the day. And so having a specialized dessert party, $120 for all you can eat something, could give guests a better viewing area of the show and tie into that. And a new restaurant altogether in the parks wouldn't be bad either. This is the opportunity for Disney's Animal Kingdom. Every park needs an emotional farewell. Disney's Animal Kingdom cuts that opportunity short, and it often leaves guests exiting the park in the heat or thunderstorms of the day when they could be leaving a world full of magic and wonder. Well, those are my 5 things. Looking at live streaming, looking at food and beverage at the Magic Kingdom, looking at behavior at 50's Primetime Cafe, and then closing at both Magic Kingdom and at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Some are simple opportunities, some involve a little more investment, but all of them are possibilities of taking something that's negative and making them really so much better for guests who have paid a premium to come to visit Walt Disney World and want to have a magical experience. By the way, note, I had hoped this week as I was recording that there'd be annual pass holder or some kind of general guest previews so we could present a review of New Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. As of recording, I'm still waiting to hear any announcement of that. May come sooner than later, I'm not sure, depending. I'm traveling next week out of town, but hold on. We hope to have a really solid and very fun review of Big Thunder, and I've got a special guest for that. And we hope in May to also share all the other new openings coming, to include Rock and Roller Coaster with the Muppets, Bluey over at Disney's Animal Kingdom, Mandalorian and Grogu on Smuggler's Run, and eventually this summer, the new Magic of Disney animation experience. So make sure you not only save this podcast for yourself, but recommend it to others of your friends and so forth. In recommending other opportunities, can I just suggest you check out the link on our show notes page or on our DisneyInsights.com page of Disneyland Insights, Inspiration, Ideas, and Magic for you and your organization. It's an interactive multimedia experience. It's designed for those who are trying to take their organization to the next level and offers great insights on leadership, on employee engagement, on customer service. You just have to check it out. It is totally my newest project, and it's very exciting, and I want you to take a look at it. Dozens of videos, hundreds of graphics, stories, and things that you have not heard anywhere else. Check it out. It's Disneyland Insights, Inspiration, and Ideas and Magic for you and your organization. Also, my books, A Century of Powerful Disney Insights 100, Volume 1, The Walt and Roy Disney Years, The Wonderful World of Customer Service at Disney, and Disney Leadership in You, along with my main business book, Lead with Your Customer. Check all those out. The links are on the show notes page or again on DisneyInsights.com. Thanks for joining us for this podcast. Know that is in the title of my organization, Performance Journeys. It's as much about the journey as it is about performance. Find the second star to the right and keep going straight on till you reach it. Follow the compass of your heart and know that with a smile and a song, a little faith, effort, and pixie dust, your dreams can come true. After all, if we can dream it, we can do it. Until next time, bright suns, we'll see ya real soon.